Welcome, brave souls, to the fire's flickering light, where shadows dance and whispers of the unknown drift on the wind. I'm SamHain, your guide through the eerie tales that haunt the darkest corners of your imagination. Tonight, we gather around the flames to uncover stories that will chill your bones, make your heart race, and keep you looking over your shoulder. From ancient legends to ghastly encounters, these tales are not for the faint of heart. So, stoke the fire, lean in close, and prepare yourself for a journey into the realm of the strange and the sinister. Are you ready to be afraid? Let the storytelling begin.
The Mist of Glenwraith. The Scottish Highlands are as beautiful as they are deadly, and no one knew this better than the four hikers who ventured into Glenwraith on a grey, overcast morning. Glenwraith wasn't marked on most maps, but to seasoned hikers like Alex, Mary, Jodie and Duncan, that only made it more enticing. They heard whispers of the place, an isolated valley said to be the home to ancient ruins and strange occurrences, but rumours never scared them until it was too late. First sign of trouble was the mist. It rolled in slowly at first, seeping between the trees like it had a mind of its own. Scottish weather, right? Duncan joked. But no one laughed. The mist didn't just thicken, it grew unnaturally dense, swallowing up the horizon and muffling the sounds of the world around them. How can there be mist with no wind? Mary asked, her voice already uneasy. There was no answer, just the growing sense that something wasn't right. The air felt thick, almost oppressive, pressing down on them with a weight they couldn't explain. They continued walking, but something strange was happening. The trail they'd been following seemed to have vanished, replaced by narrow trees that bent unnaturally inwards, as though they were trying to trap them. Wait, where's the path? Jodie asked, her voice cracking. They all stopped, realizing at once that they were no longer on the trail. They hadn't even noticed they'd veered off. It should be just back there, Alex said, trying to keep calm. We can retrace our steps. But as they turned, the path behind them was gone, obliterated by the thick, swirling mist. Panic began to set in. Duncan checked his compass, but the needle spun wildly, pointing nowhere and everywhere, all at once. The sun, which had been hidden by clouds, was now entirely absent from the sky, leaving no sense of direction. Every step they took seemed to drag them deeper into the labyrinth of the twisted woods. Then they heard it, a distant whisper, just at the edge of hearing. What was that? Mary whispered, her hand clutching Alex's arm tightly. The whispers grew louder, surrounding them, overlapping voices that seemed to call their names. It was impossible to tell where they were coming from, but they were everywhere. Moving. Just keep moving, Alex urged, though his voice wavered. The trees grew more sinister, their trunks narrowed and blackened as if burned long ago, and the mist, it was moving, seemed to reach out, curling around their legs like skeletal fingers, trying to pull them deeper into its grasp. We stay together, Jodie screamed, but Duncan had already wandered too far ahead, disappearing into the fog. Duncan! She yelled, her voice trembling. They rushed forward, calling his name, but there was no response. Nothing but endless, maddening whispers that seemed to come from the mist itself. And then they saw it, a figure, faint just beyond the mist, a silhouette. Duncan? No, it was too tall. Its limbs were too long, its body twisted and wrong. The figure was barely human, more like a shadow given form, and it stood still, watching them. Mary screamed. Alex grabbed her and pulled her back, but the mist was tightening its hold, drawing them toward the figure. Jodie ran. She bolted, pushing through the fog, crashing through branches, calling Duncan's name, but her voice only echoed back at her in distorted, mocking tones. She could hear footsteps behind her, rapid, irregular footsteps, far too fast. She turned around as a hand, cold and grey as death, reached out of the mist and clamped around her wrist. She screamed once, and then there was silence. Alex and Mary, panting and frantic, pushed on. The mist clung to them, chilling their bones. Then, in the distance, they saw it. The ruins, crumbled stones barely recognisable, stood like tombstones in the haze, and there, in the centre of the ruins, lay something horrible. It was Duncan. His body was contorted, his face frozen in a scream of pure terror, eyes wide and staring at nothing. Mary's knees gave out, and she fell to the ground, shaking violently. What's happening? She whimpered. We have to go now, Alex said. But even as he spoke, the mist thickened. and the air grew colder. Suddenly there was a sound, a low, guttural rumble, like the growl of something enormous and ancient. It reverberated through the ground, shaking the very stones of the ruins. Alex felt it in his bones, a vibration that made his teeth ache and his skin crawl. The mist shifted unnaturally, swirling faster and faster as if something was stirring within it. "Do you feel that?" Mary whispered, barely able to speak. Her breath came out in short, panicked bursts, each one more ragged than the last. The ground beneath their feet began to buckle, shifting as if the earth itself was breathing. Slow and deliberate. The mist thickened further, so dense it became almost tangible, brushing against her skin like cold, damp fingers. In the distance, that shadowy figure reappeared, but this time there were more of them. Dozens of tall, twisted shapes, all standing unnaturally still, watching, waiting. One by one, their heads turned towards Alex and Mara. The whispers grew louder, now clear, as they echoed in the cold air. "Join us. Stay with us. Forever." Alex grabbed Mary's hand. As he did, she jerked away. Her face had gone pale, her eyes wide with terror. They're inside my head, Alex. I can feel them, whispering, crawling inside." She clawed at her skull, tears streaming down her face. "Stop! We have to move!" Alex shouted, trying to shake her out of it. But Mary's eyes were glazed over, her pupils dilated, her breath shallow, her voice was barely a whisper now. "They're taking me. They want us. They want us to stay." Without warning, Mary let out a blood-curdling scream and sprinted into the mist, her figure vanishing almost instantly. Alex called after her, his voice hoarse, but there was no response, only the sound of her fading screams, swallowed by the swirling fog. He ran after her, his heart racing, every step like a plunge into icy water. But no matter how fast he moved, the mist pulled at him, slowing him down, dragging him deeper into an unknown. Shadows flickered at the edge of his vision, figures that darted just out of sight, always watching, always waiting. He could hear them whispering his name now, closer and closer, like they were right beside him. Suddenly he tripped. His hands hit the cold, wet ground, and as he pushed himself up, he realised with horror that the earth beneath him was moving, crawling with something alive. Pale, bony hands, thousands of them, pushing up from the soil, grasping, clawing. They wrapped around his ankles, pulling him down, their cold skeletal fingers pressing into his skin. He screamed, trying to kick free, but the more he struggled, the more hands appeared, emerging from the earth like the dead had risen to claim him. In the distance, he could still hear Mary's scream, but it wasn't human anymore. It was twisted, distorted, mingling with the laughter of something far more sinister. And then, just as quickly as it'd come, the mist had lifted. The valley was silent, peaceful, the sky cleared, revealing a pale setting sun. There was no sign of Alex, Mary, Jody or Duncan. Only the distant call of a crow echoed through the empty, still air. The locals never spoke of Glenwraith again. And so, Glenwraith remains a mystery, silent, shrouded in mist, and waiting for its next visitors. What happened to Alex, Mary, Jody and Duncan? No one can say for sure. But if you ever find yourself hiking in the Scottish Highlands, and a strange mist begins to curl around your feet, you might just find out for yourself. Thanks for joining me on this haunting journey. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the bell so you won't miss the next one. Until then, stay safe and stay out of the mist.